today it's special. Today it's special because Dana Ackley, who is a longtime member of our society, who I would guess anybody who's been on the listserv for any length of time knows Dana from his work about EQ and his generosity when people have questions. But he's been doing some other kinds of consulting, and I'm personally fascinated by it. He's going to tell us about how to empower leaders to rise above toxic polarization. Not that we see much of that in the country these days or places around us. And so if Dana's got insights on it, I'm all ears. Dana is going to tell us about something he's on called the Roanoke Collaboration Project. It could be a model for things a number of us on this call might wish to do where we live for that. And Dana's also the recent author of A Little Book to Save Humanity. That's a sweet title. I like that. And maybe a little later, just before we go to breakouts, I can get him to just tell us a little about the book or just give us a little taste of that book before we do breakouts. But with that, I want to give you as much time as possible. Dana, tell us about your work with Roanoke Collaboration Project and set us up eventually in half an hour when we go into some small groups to talk about what we can do.
Great. And if anybody wants to turn their camera on, it sure is great to get the visual feedback. So I know some of you prefer not, but if you can, that would be great. I did put together some slides because it helps me stay organized. So I'm going to get through these pretty quickly, but these are from a presentation I did at Midwinter in Austin. And the purpose of that and the purpose of tonight is to try to encourage you to engage in your communities, to encourage constructive dialogue about some of the difficult problems that every community faces. And I realized that I want to ask the group a question. This is community psychology. I took community psychology courses in graduate school, a couple of them. Do they still have community psychology programs? Nobody's ever heard of them. Okay, well, that's what this is, and that's what Mark is encouraging. So let's keep this back up. And there we go. So by the way, I'm not sure how you make money at this. I don't know of a way. So I'm here evangelizing, but I'm at a place in my career, way down near the tail end where I'm not worried about the mortgage payment. So for those of you who are early and mid-career, then this may or may not work. But, oh, yes, by the way, I did write this book, no talk about it. Let me set up the problem. As Mark said, there are lots of conflict entrepreneurs in our environment these days. And on a national level, and I see them on both the right and the left. And these folks have learned how to mess with the amygdala. They have learned how to inflame it, to make people be afraid, to be angry, to hate, because it gives them votes. It works. Media, with slants to the left and slants to the right, tend to appeal to our base instincts because it sells ads and grabs eyeballs. And with this leadership from our politicians and our media, social media goes nuts. And so everybody there is this increasingly toxic polarization. And absent better leadership, and that's where we come in, many people follow the leaders that exist. This is Peter Coleman. He is a social psychologist at Columbia, and he's got some really interesting research. One is this headline that I didn't know, but people can become addicted to outrage. I mean, it is so comforting to be outraged because now you can be sure of everything, and it reduces anxiety. And he's got this really good book. I think he wrote it for the public, but you've got to have an IQ of at least 120 to process it. But it's The Way Out. And so I would encourage you to take a peek at that. Among his research, is this really interesting fact, because it's surprising. Our country isn't as divided as it seems. And he did this research and found that Americans divide themselves up across 7 slots on the political spectrum. Only 14% are on the far right or the far left. 86% of us are somewhere in the middle. I mean, you wouldn't know it's only 14% if you look at the candidates that come out, if you look at the media and so forth. But the vast majority of us are somewhere in the middle. And our work, the work I'm encouraging all of us to do, is to take back the microphones, or maybe to take them for the first time. So this is one of 2 stories that I told in Austin. The other one was a national organization that I got involved in. They recruited me because they were recruiting young, wealthy people, wrong on both counts. But that's a story for a different day. But here's how this Roanoke collaboration project came about. Roanoke is a community of about 315,000 in the metro area. And I had my office downtown, and I ran what I called the CEO group. And so we had folks who were the city manager, who were bank presidents, who were the medical school dean, a number of leaders, and they'd schlep over to my office once a month, because they didn't have anybody in their own organizations that were peers. And so we would talk about things of mutual interest. And then when I closed my office downtown, I ended that. And in 2020, after the election, so this was like February, March, one of the guys, Jay, who was a CEO of a software company, who had been in the CEO group, wrote an op-ed that I thought was just terrific. And so I reached out to him. And we were having a conversation, commiserating, and he said, we probably ought to do something. And we said to each other, you know people, I know people, let's get them together. And so our goal was to put together a group of community leaders. And our mission is to promote collaboration, to empower our community to solve the serious problems that we all face together. We don't take any positions on interests. Our mission is to encourage collaborative dialogue. And we've been able to access a number of mature collaborative methods and community meetings that we have held. So the steering committee is very diverse, and that is very intentional. Republicans, Democrats, women, men, white, Black, Christian, Jewish, other. The steering committee has really 15, so I just put some sample folks up here, and you can read that for yourselves. But this is operating on the 6 degrees of separation. We built this group based on relationships of people that we knew and respected, and had the personal maturity to engage in this kind of group. We meet every 2 weeks for an hour over Zoom, and we talk about all sorts of things, all sorts of problems, and you'll see some of them. But what we have discovered mostly is how little any of us know about these problems. And so we educate each other, and we break down barriers among ourselves. It's just, even if we didn't do anything, it was a wonderful personal experience. But in terms of our operational principles, that we have the steering committee, about 15 members, as I said. These are community leaders. Everybody's got day jobs, so this is all volunteer. And one of our principles is that we work from the balcony, so that these folks who participate in this group are leaders who can mobilize others in the community to join us in our efforts. And so we don't do it all because we all have day jobs, but they do it to enact, again, our mission of collaborative discussion. It was interesting. I said, we've learned how little we know. We were going to have for civic discussion. It turned out that was a word that some people objected to. So we needed to pay attention to that. And we have absolutely no money. We don't even have a bank account. We are not a formal organization. This is just a group of volunteers that's been working together now for about 4 years. And it's leaderless. All the members are equal. Everybody has equal say. Jay and I provide modest organizational stuff. So we schedule meetings, and I'll send out an agenda, but that can be changed at the meeting. I happen to write up the minutes, but we never impose our will or try to be an expert. So as a member of this group, I am not a consultant. We're accustomed to being consultants, but you're not really a member when you're a consultant. In this, I'm a full member. And as I told the story in Austin, there was one time when I tried to speak ex cathedra as a psychologist, and it went over like a lead balloon. They just hated it and ignored me, as they should have. But they listened to me at other times when I don't try to pull that. So again, it's amazing what we've learned. Trust among us has grown dramatically. One of the things I did not point out was that we had 2 state delegates, 1 Republican and 1 Democrat. The Republican dropped out after a discussion he and a Black pastor who was a member of our group had about whether or not there's systemic racism. And he didn't come back after that. So in terms of things that we've done, we've had a number of editorials preaching our message in our local newspaper and other local publications. We've got a website. We created a pledge for constructive dialogue. Over 300 of our community members have signed that. We've held a number of community meetings, largely other leaders who come, usually about 100 people. We hold it at our medical school. And we have, through these meetings and through a conversation process, we've identified at least these 3 community problems. And then we have follow-up meetings. We've been working on affordable housing and use that to create encouragement for action steps that the participants will take. In October, because of our concern about what happens at polling places, we are going to have a program on election fairness and anxiety, and we're going to have folks who work the polls, and we're going to have election deniers, and we're going to have a constructive conversation. In January, we co-sponsored an event with a local internet-based news service where we had 3 top state legislative leaders spoke, and our focus was on creating collaborative dialogue in the upcoming legislative session. There are a lot of national organizations that are involved in this. The Morton Deutsch thing is at Columbia, where Peter Coleman is. And then there are all of these. You see the numbers there on the right. I defy you to name any 2 of them. We're not, and yet you probably know the name of Marjorie Taylor Greene. So you can see how the media works. We need the microphone. We need the attention. Oh, so this is my little book, and it's different. And then it's a different approach to the same problem. And Mark, this might be the time for me to read this, if that's all right. So you're muted, Mark.
Just give us a little taste of what's in the book then for 2 minutes.
All right. So this is the first 3 paragraphs. As I write this in 2024 in America, the country that aspires to be the light of democracy for the world, we see increasingly sharp and toxic divisions. Various groups line up to hate other groups, encouraged to do so by conflict entrepreneurs. These are people who have learned how to manipulate other people's emotions, sparking fear and hatred for their own selfish purposes. Conflict entrepreneurs, including many politicians, again on both sides of the aisle, and media on both sides of the slants, are driven to get votes and sell airtime, never mind the damage done. Talking about our fellow citizens as if they were the enemy is poison our job, yours and mine, and I've written this book for the lay public, but includes all of you and me. Our job, yours and mine, is to not let them win. This little book exists for just that purpose. We need to demand better of our leaders. As a group, today's politicians have become masters of getting elected, but too many fail miserably when they try to govern. The methods they use to get elected undermine their ability to be competent leaders for all people. The rest of it is something that I've gone over, so I won't do the last paragraph. And now, Mark, this is a slide that might be useful when we do our breakout groups. So why don't I stop sharing? And I'd love to hear what people have to say.